Three years ago, I decided I wanted to make a video on magazine cover lighting. And I looked back at this video, it needed some updating. So I decided to revisit this concept. And the other day, I got in the studio with my friend Tanner, and we shot 7 new magazine covers for you all. And I'm gonna do a lighting breakdown of each one to show you how I got the look. So here's the reference image for the first magazine cover that we recreated. Believe it or not, this shoot was published in 2015. That is 10 years ago. But the light in this photo is so timeless, it looks like it could have been taken yesterday. And it's a setup that will endure for years to come. That's what I love about this setup. That, and it's very simple in actuality to replicate. Let me show you how. So for this setup, I was using one of my profoto strobe lights, and I had a 3-foot octabox as my light modifier. I had the light positioned on a C-stand with an arm so that I could hang the light over my subject a bit more. Pro tip, when using a C-stand with an arm, when you're hanging the light off to the side, you're definitely shifting the center of gravity and the weight is pulling it to one side or the other. So make sure to use a sandbag because that thing will crash and burn and you will be really upset, or the model will be upset if it falls on their head. When I took a test photo, I realized that I wanted to deepen the shadows on the shadowy side of his face. So that's why you see me going over to grab this black piece of foam core. And that's acting as a negative fill on the shadowy side of my subject. Negative fill is essentially just putting something dark next to the subject on the opposite side of the light so that when the light hits, it's sort of absorbing any kind of reflection that might be going on and deepening the shadows on the dark side of your subject. I also realized when I took the test shot that I needed to raise the light a little bit higher so that it was coming more overhead of the subject. I realized that because in the reference photo, the model has a little bit more shadow underneath his eyes, and I wanted to make it look a little bit more hooded, a little bit more like it was coming from above. The backdrop that I used was just a seamless gray backdrop. The color is fashion gray, which is really just a nice neutral medium gray color. I realized though that when I was editing the photo and looking at the reference photo, kind of going back and forth, the gray that I was using was significantly darker than the gray that the original photo had been using. So I did end up brightening up my backdrop in post, just using a levels adjustment. In recreating this look, I really wanted to make sure that the light was spot on and that the pose and everything was just right because it's a very simple shot. So the details really matter. I kept going from my phone back to my subject and kind of looking back and forth, just comparing and making sure that it was matching up with what I was seeing on my camera. And with a shot like this, being that it's so simple and the lighting is very straightforward, it's all about the pose if you're trying to recreate this image exactly. So I was looking at the body language, making sure his arm was just in the right position, angling his head in the right spot. And of course, when you do this too, it gives you different looks with the lighting, you know, just depending on where the person's head is turned in relation to the light. So making sure to angle it the same way will get you the result that you're looking for. I also like the use of a 3-foot octabox. Here's why. Having a smaller light source means that there's a little bit more fall off from where the light is directed to beyond the subject. It means that the light is going to be a little bit more focused. It's going to be a little bit more directional. And there's gonna be less light kind of permeating your scene, allowing for some deeper shadows, a little bit more contrast, and a little bit more pop to your image. Once we finished taking the shot that was matching the cover image, I really just wanted to get some nice, interesting shots of him with this same lighting. So then we got to experiment a little bit more with the posing and just trying different crops and angles. And that's where we really got to start getting creative. It's funny too, because when you start doing this and kind of making your own version of whatever it is you're sort of referencing, you start to realize like, oh, this looks way better, or oh, I like this angle with the light, and you find things that you actually like more than the original, which is great. That's what you're hoping to do. With this series, it's not meant to be copying other people's work and just kind of doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. I really wanted to show you how people achieve a certain look with these magazine covers, and then with these same kind of setups and technical things that we're kind of uncovering, hopefully you can apply those to your own work and put your own unique spin on it. So Here is the original version, and here is my version. I really love how this turned out. It was definitely fun to play with this image afterwards in Photoshop a little bit. There were definitely some curves layers and some things that I was doing to kind of manipulate the tones in the black and white to match the original. And now I'll show you some of my favorite shots that were just us playing around with this lighting setup with different poses and expressions. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can keep up with this series and see all the other magazine covers that we recreated. Till next time.